Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shenanigans Show. So, as you can tell from the title and thumbnail of this video, this is my very first Read It or Unhaul It book challenge. And for the time being, I am going to be just doing it for like the 4 seasons. So spring, this one, or end of spring, and then summer, autumn, fall, and then winter. And I may do, and that's going to be for 2025. I may do more in 2026, depending on how many unread books I have on my bookshelf and depending on how timing goes. But right now, that is the plan for this video, and this also counts as my reading vlog for May. Sorry, I was just adding to my rules. So this was inspired by, I know that a lot of bookish content creators, booktubers do this, but mine was directly inspired by Books with Emily Fox, who I've tagged down below in the description. But I have some rules for myself and some notes. And as of right now, I am going to be so to go through my notes. Like I mentioned, these are also down below in the description, but like I mentioned, I don't know how frequently this will be added to, but I am going to try to do it for the 4 different seasons. And then at some point I will be going through all of my books and not just unread ones. But for the time being, I am going to focus on unread ones until I've gotten that down to, I want to say like less than 5. Let's see, how many do I have on my shelf? And this is going to be my physical shelf too. So even though that's kind of obvious, I was just adding that. Even though that's kind of obvious, like I am going to be focusing only on my physical shelf just because with audiobooks and ebooks that I have, like, you can't really return those unless it's through the Libby app. So that's that. And also to, like I said, I will be going through all of my books. So the series will include rereads at some point, although rereads are unlikely to be unhauled. And then as for my specific rules, just to go through mine at least, I have to at least spend 15 minutes reading a day, and then updating the video every few chapters. And then at the very least, if I get through a book really quickly, then that's when it would be okay to update, but only at the end of the chapter. But I'm going to try to update every few chapters or a little bit more regularly through reading. And then for me, I have like 3 specific categories. So keeping it, thinking about it, and then unhauling. And then that way it'll just give me a little bit of time to decide if I'm not sure about a book. Then that will be thinking about it, and then it'll give me a little bit more time to decide. But if I do have any books that are thinking about it, I have to decide at the end of the video, or by the end of the video. And then if I'm not feeling a video, or if I'm not feeling a book, I can DNF it. But again, at the end of the video, I have to decide to keep it and read it later, or if I'm just gonna unhaul it. And then I'm keeping this at 1 week long just to kind of keep it a little bit manageable. And then for any books that I DNF but keep, I have to try them in roughly a year. And then once I try them again, then I have to decide if I'm still going to keep it or if they're going to be unhauled. And then that way it's, again, a little bit more manageable. And then the list of books that I bring up in this video are down below in the description. And then I kind of have it categorized as to by the emoji in front of the title as to what book is being kept and what's being unhauled. Now, there are 2 books that aren't going to be a priority within this video. And the first one is 6 Days in Bombay. Well, the second one. Either way. It's listed as the second one down below, but it's 6 Days in Bombay by Alka Joshi. And this one, it's not a priority for this video because I'm listening to it as an audiobook in the Libby app. And I already have the audiobook format in Book of the Month, so I can't really unhaul that. And then the other one is A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Leung. And I started this one a couple days ago and I included it in the intro, but I am 90% sure I will be enjoying this, so this won't be necessarily considered as part of this video, but I will still be reading it. The first book that I'm going to start off with is, at least for this video, Masters of Death by, I always want to say it, Olivia Blake. And to give premises, because I'm trying to do that more often too, there is a game that the Immortals play. There is only one rule: don't lose. Viola Merrick is a struggling real estate agent and a vampire, but her biggest problem currently is that the house she needs to sell is haunted. The ghost haunting the mansion has been murdered, and until he can solve the mystery of how he died, he refuses to move on. Fox Demora is a medium, and though he is also most definitely a shameless fraud, he isn't entirely without his uses, seeing as he's actually the godson of death. When Viola seeks out Fox to help with her ghost infestation, he becomes inextricably involved in a quest that neither he nor Vi expects or wants. But with the help of an unruly poltergeist, a demonic personal trainer, a sharp-voiced angel, a love-stricken reaper, and a few mindfulness-practicing creatures, Vi and Fox soon discover the difference between a mysterious lost love and an annoying dead body isn't nearly as distinct as they thought. So that's what this one's about. And as for... Ooh, they include pictures, do they? There are pictures included. So, which can kind of throw it off depending on the placement of the pictures. But it seems like maybe they're at the end of the chapter, which should be okay. So essentially the way I will be deciding if I'm going to DNF it is I'm going to read a chapter, and then if I'm not quite sure, I'll read a second chapter, and then by the third chapter, if I'm still not into it, I have to DNF it, and then I have to then decide again, like I mentioned, either thinking about it and then decide by the end of the video, or keep it or unhaul it. So let's get started. Okay, so I am now at Chapter 4, Reapers and Sowers, page 34, and I think I am going to continue with this a little bit more. Now, I just give myself like a chapter minimum of what to read before deciding to give up on it for these videos, just so that I can at least give it some semblance of a shot. And the reason also too why I didn't give myself a page count was because if I'm not invested 2 to 3 chapters in, then I'm not going to be invested. And 2 to 3 chapters for one book can, like this book, can look like 33 pages, yet for another it can look like 100 pages. So it's why I give myself a chapter count rather than a page count. And also too, with chapter count, I can ensure that I end on a chapter, whereas with page count it might end in the middle of a chapter. So I am going to continue with this one for a little bit. The minimum I have to get through is, for most of these books in this video, it's 2 to 3 chapters. The maximum would be like 50% of the way through for me to DNF it and unhaul it. And I can DNF it and unhaul it at any point in the read, but it's just, if I'm not invested in the 3 to 4 chapter range at minimum and then 50% of the way through at maximum, if I'm not invested in that period of time, then for me at least there's no point in continuing. So yeah, again, let's see. Okay. I am not including the acknowledgements or the sneak peek into One for My Enemy, but this is about 384 pages. So halfway through that would be about 142 pages, roughly. So again, if I'm not invested by that, let's see, what would 142. Oh, and it does land on a chapter. It's chapter 13. So if I'm not invested by chapter 13, then I can DNF without remorse. I can DNF past 50% past chapter 13 without remorse. But I would like to give it to at least chapter 13 halfway through before giving up on it. So again, we'll see. It does seem to have, like, I think I may have mentioned this earlier, it does seem to have cozy murder mystery vibes. So those are the expectations I'm going into it. And based on her, the other thing too, is based on her other works and what I've heard of the Atlas 6 from people who have similar taste to me, the Atlas 6 is not something that I think I would like. And this one, I've heard other people like. I don't have very high expectations for it to begin with, because her other work is not stuff I would go for. It's not stuff I would think I would like. So that's, for me, is why I don't have very high expectations for it. But it seems like it could be a fun popcorn read at the very least. And to have a little bookmark show off, I got this as a gift from my friend. When I die, delete my Kindle history. I do not have a Kindle, but this felt fitting. I do not plan to get a Kindle, maybe a Kubo at some point. I think it's called Kubo, the Canadian equivalent. Yeah, it felt fitting for this book, so we'll just see how it goes. Please excuse my voice. I'm a little bit sick today, but I wanted to wrap this up. So, with Masters of Death, I got to chapter 6, which was page, I want to say 64. I hadn't started reading it. I read up to page 63, got to chapter 6, like I said, modern myths, and I still wasn't very engaged, so I decided to DNF it. I am gonna unhaul it, and if I want to try to read it again at some point, I will borrow it from the Libby app or my local library. I just feel like that's the best course of action for me right now. And it might be because I'm sick now when I try to read more of it, but honestly, like 16% of the way through, I'm not fully engaged with it. Not engaged with the characters even. I feel like that's a good enough sign for me to just set it aside. And if I want to try it again, borrow through Libby. Okay, so I am also going to be unhauling a couple of other books that I didn't talk about this in this video. I did want to get to some others in this video, but again, I am sick and I don't think I'm gonna have time to try them all in this video by the time I want to finish it, or have this video finished. But I do have some other books that I will be unhauling, and I'm gonna try to find some free little free libraries, or donate them to my local library. And the first one is gonna be The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. And I did like this one. This is very cozy fantasy. I didn't like it enough for it to continue sitting on my shelf, and to be seeing it there, that space could be used for a book I really love and I like more than I liked this one. And then next up is A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey William. Is this the one I read? Yeah. I did read this. Again, I did like it. I just don't like it enough to want to keep it on my shelf. And a lot of these books, there's one that I didn't read in this, but a lot of them are, or there's two I didn't read. But yeah. Next one is, I'm not gonna finish that thought. The next one is All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. I thought I was gonna read this, but as just time went on, I kind of realized I'm most likely not gonna read it. So again, it's a situation where it's like, if I want to pick it up, I can borrow it from Libby or Hoopla. And with A Flicker in the Dark, I did borrow this in Libby, and in the moment I did really like it, but after some time it was like, okay, I didn't like it that much. Now for the next book, it's Romanoff by Nadine Brands, and this one was very much a cover buy. I was interested in the title, and the cover is very appealing, and the premise is very interesting. But when I realized who the author is, like, I read Fox by Nadine Brands, and I didn't like that very much. Not that it was bad, but I didn't like it very much. And Fox felt very much YA historical fantasy, and YA tends to lead romancy, or tends to be very romance heavy, which is not my thing. Not all YA, but a lot of YA tends to be romance heavy. And just after thinking about it, I didn't think I was gonna pick this one up after not enjoying Fox. So we're just, hopefully it'll be happy at the library or find someone in the little free library. And then the last one is Spinning Gold by Carmela Lucas. Now, I did like this one. I really liked it. I just have the audiobook and the Book of the Month app, so I can always, well, that'll really annoy me. But anyway, if I want to read it, I can always borrow it from the Libby or borrow it from my local library, and that won't be a huge deal. So my voice is going a little bit more, but I did really like this. I do highly recommend it. Space could be used for physical books where I don't necessarily have the audiobook. And as for, like, I know I had mentioned with Song to Join Rivers that I'm reading it. I haven't made much progress because I made a little bit and then I got sick. I also have the audiobook for this in Book of the Month, so it might be a situation where I read this and then unhaul it. But we'll see. Like, if I like it enough to have, like, the trophy on my bookshelf, we'll see. But as of right now, I am unhauling those books. Just because, like, again, I can use the space for other books that I enjoy more or that I will most likely read. So, excuse me. So that is the end of this video. It is definitely much shorter than I intended it to be and not as reading heavy as I intended, but I feel like this was a good introduction to the Read It or Unhaul It challenge for me, at least, and for this challenge. And I am unhauling a good amount of books, even though I did not read 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm unhauling 6 books. I read 3 of them, so I read half of them. Tried a 4th, so really only 2 of them I didn't read, which is good, I think. Again, they will most likely be going to my local library or any little libraries I can find, little free libraries. So we will see how it all goes. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.